Nicole Phillips, a staff attorney from the Institute for Justice and Democracy in Haiti. And she's also a law professor at the University of San Francisco.
Bienvenue. I'm Nicole. Thank you so much for being here and for staying and listening to me. It's really a pleasure. It's also really nice to be in Union Hall. I was a union labor lawyer for 10 years, so I'm always excited to be in union halls or connected to union movements in any way I can. Doing work in Haiti is a lot like being a union labor lawyer, because our goal is to work with social movements to try and strengthen them, keep them out of jail as much as we can, and get their message to the power holders that be. And that's what I do as a lawyer at IJDH. So this is our organization. This is the missions of our organization. And we were established, our affiliate was established first, and it's called Bureau des Avocats Internationaux, International Lawyers Office. And that was established in 1995 to bring human rights cases in Haiti against governmental officials. And it was funded by President Proval. President Aristide helped create our organization along with his legal counsel, and it was funded by President Proval. Then in 2004, when the coup d'etat happened, our funding stopped because the coup government didn't want us pursuing human rights in Haiti, go figure. And also we were quite critical of the coup. And so one of the lawyers, one of the co-managing lawyers named Brian Kincannon, moved back to the United States in 2004 and opened up IJDH to make Haiti safe for democracy, to make the United States safe for democracy in Haiti. Realizing that all the amazing work that we were able to do in Haiti for human rights and rule of law could be undermined by the magic political wand of the United States in one foul swoop with one airplane and handcuffs, meant that not only was our work in Haiti important, but also our work in the United States is important. And I extend that to the United Nations, to the Organization of American States, to all of the bodies that hold power, that make decisions for Haitian people, and of what they deem to be considered human rights for Haitian people. This is very technical. This is the National Palace. This seemed to be sort of the symbol of the earthquake in Haiti. The National Palace has not been reconstructed, although I'm told that there are still meetings in the palace, I believe. A lot of it has been demolished, but it's still pretty much a disaster. What we know about the earthquake in Haiti is that it was a disaster of Mother Nature, for sure. It was a horrible disaster of Mother Nature. It was about a 7.0 earthquake. But what we also know is that a few weeks later, Chile had an earthquake that was 500 times stronger, and yet they suffered far less of the casualties, both in terms of human lives and property damage. So this isn't just Mother Nature, this is also a factor of poverty that created such damage. And that's what we're working with. When we're working with reconstruction and relief, but in particular reconstruction of Haiti, we're dealing with a country that was so impoverished that it had such fatalities. And there really was a coming together after the earthquake of international actors realizing that we had been so heavily involved in Haiti, and that clearly all of our efforts had been a complete failure, and that people were realizing we were going to do it differently this time. And I think a lot of us were really surprised that the international powers were admitting this and were saying it. And we all had a lot of hope, and I think a lot of Haitians had a lot of hope. And unfortunately, it doesn't look like things have been differently, that capitalism has prevailed and imperialism has prevailed, and it's a little bit of the same old, same old. So the factors that we talk about when we talk about the destruction, these are all 6 factors that existed in Haiti pre-earthquake that caused it to be so poor. One was violence. We had 2 coups. In 1991 to 1994, and then 2004 to 2006, not to mention the 30,000 people that were killed over the Duvalier years in the 60s to the 80s. We had government destabilization, thanks to the United States, Canada, other powers through the coups that Roger mentioned. weak rule of law, which I'll talk about, trade policies, aid, quote unquote, to Haiti, and also debt. And when we talk about these kind of programs, it's important to know that a lot of them, we say this is aid, and I'm imagining that in Canada, politicians will talk about how much aid assistance is going to help Haiti and sort of brag about that. But we know that actually, usually that aid is really for our own domestic policy objectives, not necessarily for the country we're operating in. And this is something, when I mentioned that everybody was coming together and admitting their faults, even Bill Clinton, President Clinton, admitted this. And what he's talking about is the trade. He's talking about how the trade policies, the United States would subsidize heavily our food that would go into Haiti, and yet we would not allow through our free trade policies Haiti to subsidize their food. So an extremely agrarian society, an agrarian economy with so many farmers, all of a sudden US products flooded the markets and caused all the Haitian products to be very expensive in comparison. Today that's still true. Rice, Haitian rice, is about 2 times more expensive in a store than American rice. So poor people buy the American rice rather than the Haitian rice. And so as a result, Haitian farmers went out of business, couldn't afford to be farmers anymore. There are stories of not even couldn't afford to get seeds for the following year's crops, and moved out into the cities and really destroyed the economy. And now that they're in the city, over 3 million people lived in Port-au-Prince, so when the earthquake happened, that's how you got numbers of 200 to 300,000 people dying. Because I'm a lawyer, of course, I think that more lawyers are the solution. One of the things that the reason we think that more lawyers are the solution is because we think that rule of law is directly connected to the poverty that exists in Haiti. And as aid is going into Haiti, unless you strengthen the rule of law along with the aid going in, then it's not going to be sustainable. That all the changes we're trying to make with aid are not going to be sustained. And so there was a figure that less than 5% of US aid goes to rule of law programs. And I suspect it's probably, rule of law programs in Canadian dollars is prisons or police stations, isn't necessarily for rule of law. And so we think that now is an even more important time to invest in rule of law. And our work is pretty unique. We just released a law review article that described our type of work. What's unique about it is we've got blanc. So blanc, for everybody who doesn't know, is the term for foreigners in Haiti. It's sort of like gringo, if you're familiar with gringo. So I just use that, blanc. There's no other American word or English word that can say that. So our organization works in partnership with our office in Haiti. And the purpose is, or the goal is to use not just legal aid, which legal aid traditionally is finding people whose human rights have been abused, bringing a case, helping that individual or maybe individuals with that case to court, getting a verdict, trying to enforce it, and then that's done. And we have found that that is very narrow in its purposes, and that each rule of law, each case that we bring, we try to use legal empowerment, not just legal aid. So we focus on organizing community involvement with every case. So as an example, we have one program that is our gender-based violence program. So we're working with grassroots women's organizations that are living and working in internal displacement camps. They were the first group of people after the earthquake that came to us and said, "We need help, please help us. Here's what we need you to do." They already knew what they wanted us to do. We need you to create a program that will help us investigate our cases where you can receive complaints of women or girls who've been raped or sexually assaulted. We need you to take down complaints and advocate with us to get lighting in the camps, to get police patrol in the camps, and also all the UN folks and the NGOs that are operating in Haiti that think that they're dealing with this problem. They're not communicating with us, they're not asking us what we want. They don't even really know what the problems are because they're not talking to us, and when they do have meetings, they're in English or in French, and we don't understand those languages. They're an hour and a half away, and it takes us too much money and too much time to go to those meetings, and we need you, Blanc, to help us open up these doors for us, because they're your people that are doing this. And so we did, we created a program. And I mention that because we bring we have over 100 cases on behalf of victims of sexual assault, all of them camp dwellers. Hopefully not all of them are still camp dwellers. And that's important. The individual legal cases are important to strengthen the court system in Haiti. We work with police we badger police, we work with them to make sure that they investigate the cases that we want to. If they need help, sometimes we provide them cars. I mean, a lot of times police officers it's not that they don't want to help, but they don't have the resources. If we say, we know where this guy lives, the attacker, go get him and arrest him, they say, I don't have any money for a cab to go. I don't have a car. I don't have gas in my car. We don't have the resources to go. So we do whatever we can to help the police do their jobs appropriately. And then we also file the cases, work with the prosecutors, work with the judges to get them to bring these cases. And it's important for a lot of reasons. It shows that the courts can bring cases to protect against violence against women. This is important for many, many reasons, as well as women's groups that we work with. Whenever there is a court hearing or anything like that, they hold protests, they do sit-ins, they do press conferences, press releases. We bring women to the UN in Geneva with us. We bring women to the Inter-American Commission with us. We really involve them in all of our advocacy work. And so this strengthens their movement and really involves them and gets their voices at the decision makers. So here's an example of this collaboration. This is a really fancy slide, I'm going to warn you. That's us. And these are the grassroots women's organizations that we work with. And they are all rape survivors, all of them. Most of them, I think all of them, existed before the earthquake and were already trying to organize around rape. And with all of the millions and millions of dollars coming into Haiti, we really tried to work with them to make sure that some of that money went to them, since we thought they were doing the really authentic work. And then we brought in other human rights groups. I kind of like this, because when I mean that little small box down at the bottom, that would be Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International and the big NGOs, and I kind of like the grassroots groups being on top and bigger than them. We also bring in law firms, kind of marginalized at the side, but we do rely on pro bono legal law firm help. Have been invaluable for a lot of research on our cases, as well as some financial. Law school clinics, so I spend a lot of my time working with law school clinics, bringing law schools delegations down to Haiti, working with them, trying to put them to work. It's a little challenging because when you go down with a group of 4 to 6 to 8 Blancs, you are a bit of a spectacle, and you're trying not to be a spectacle, so we try and really work with them to be the most productive possible and not disrupt our environment. And these are all of our ties. I call this the Frida Kahlo slide. Oh, it gets fancy. All right, so we do litigation together, we do documentation together, and we do public advocacy together. So this is the model that we use on all of our projects. And I mention it because I think it's a really good model for how Blanc and international human rights activists can work with groups and empower groups and not overpower, hopefully, groups. So these are our 4 main projects right now. We had an election project that was huge, and I feel like we lost that because family level loss was excluded from the elections, but I'm told we didn't lose that battle per se, that it's a war. But these are our 4 projects right now, and I mentioned the sexual assault one already. That model that I use, the Frida Kahlo slide, is true for all of our cases, so all of our projects. We use that model. So I can talk to you a little bit about each of them. This is probably one of our most exciting projects right now. How many of you have heard about the fact that Haitians have sued the United Nations for spreading cholera? Who's heard of this lawsuit? I'm pretty impressed. Looks like about a third to 40%. Well, we brought it in conjunction with our office in BAI. We represent 5,000 victims. It took us several months to go out, find, document, get medical certificates, get death records, get all of that for 5,000 victims. You can imagine what a nightmare this has been. And the reason we did this was because we brought this suit in November 2011, which was a little over a year after cholera had come to Haiti. And cholera came to Haiti by a brigade of Nepalese peacekeeping troops. So the very peacekeeping troops that Roger was talking about, saying, we're not sure how positive their work really is in Haiti. Maybe they're more of an oppressive foreign occupier of Haiti. There already was a lot of anti-MINUSTA animus. Not to mention it cost $800 million a year, which is an extraordinary amount of money. So there already was some lukewarm feelings about them, if not downright negative. And then they spread cholera. And as of today, cholera has killed about over 7,000 people. It has infected 500,000 people. Out of a population of 10 million, it's about 5% of the population have gotten cholera. And it is ongoing. Contrary to some reports, it has not been contained. It's been contained in that the percentages of deaths haven't spiked, but what the deaths are right now are 200 people every month die of cholera, and 97 people every day. Today, while we were busy doing our days, 97 people got cholera in Haiti. And so this is something that is not being controlled. And the reason it's not being controlled is because the UN does admit that they even brought it in the first place, even though it's clear, even though their own report admits that it was brought by Nepalese troops where there was a cholera epidemic, and that their sanitation facilities at the military base where they're staying in the Central Valley was leaking, was negligently maintained. In fact, they think that there was such a sharp spike of deaths within a week to 2 weeks of their arrival that there must have been a truckload at least of their raw sewage dumped into this river that is the largest river, or tributary to the river, that is the largest river, the Artibonite, in Haiti, and is the main water source for thousands and thousands of people. So this is beyond negligence. This is gross negligence. If this were a corporation, if this were a municipality, if this were a utility company, if this were anything, there would be a lawsuit immediately and a settlement and mea culpas and everything going on. But no, this is the UN. So they don't admit it. Nobody pressures them to admit it. The United States is silent on it. The UK made one small statement in a Security Council meeting. The Canadian government is silent on it. And meanwhile, 200 people die a month. So we got tired of this. Haitians got tired of this and angry as they were. Every Haitian has somebody in their family who's died of this disease. And there's no end in sight. And the only end in sight is clean water. You need to have clean water. And if the UN has been in Haiti since, the MINUSTA has been in there since 2004, if the UN's played a role in Haiti for so long, can they not at least put in clean water? And so finally, after we filed our lawsuit, there has been a meeting of the government of Haiti, the government of the Dominican Republic, UNICEF, the U.S. Center for Disease Control, and the Pan American Health Organization. And they met and they said, what would it take? What if we did put in clean water? We're not saying we're going to do it, but what if we did? How much would that cost? And they figured it's about $1 billion. And so that would be 1 year of MINUSTA's mission. So Haiti wants MINUSTA out anyways. What if they cut that mission by 1 year and instead put clean water in for the entire island? which would include digging wells, etc. So that's what we're saying. That's our reasonable solution. That's what we want. Not only is that what we want, but that is the only way to guarantee human rights of Haitians to have the right to life and clean water, which is affirmed in a gazillion international treaties that I can tell you all about later. You can take my class in Moscow. And so we're saying that this has to happen. And what we need is help from you all, because I was in New York this week doing advocacy with UN member states saying, because when we talk about the UN, it's a fictitious organization. It's just made up of us, taxpayers, to our governments that sit on the various bodies and make decisions. So the UN is us. And so we're going to people who have contacts in St. Lucia, who have contacts in the United States, who have contacts in Brazil, Venezuela. I met with Ecuador, Venezuela, and tried to meet with sort of high-end officials with each of these countries to say, enough is enough, stop. We need the UN to take control and bring clean water to Haiti. So I'm hoping that a network comes together and pressures the Canadian government to do the same. Another exciting case is the case against Jean-Claude Duvalier. And Roger talked a little bit about that case. Our organization, because we had brought a case against some coup leaders from the 1991 to 1994 coup government, we had brought successfully a human rights case. So they invited us to participate and help them gather evidence, etc., for this. Jean-Claude Duvalier was president at the age of 19. He started in 1961. He inherited this from his father, François Duvalier. And together they reigned for about 30 years, 29 years, and were responsible for an estimated 30,000 deaths, not to mention the torture and kidnapping, arbitrary detention of tens of thousands more. This is, for those of you who know about the history of Latin America during that time, then all the dictators, the Duvaliers were up there in the ranks of the infamous dictators. It was pretty incredible that he came back to Haiti in January 2011. And if there's more time during questioning, I can tell you why I think he came back, speculation. But the reality is he did, and so that allowed us, he'd been in France, and they did pass basically for legal reasons, we weren't able to ever pursue anything against him. As soon as he moved back to Haiti, the Haitian government arrested him, filed charges against him, and he's been on house arrest, which means he gets to eat lobster in fancy restaurants and pets on view and walk the streets as if he were a free man with no cares in the world. But nonetheless, at least this case was going against him. Under the Proval government, the investigation was pretty rigorous. And then it all stopped as soon as President Martelly took over in May of 2011, and the case has really been stalled since then. So it really was no surprise that about 2 weeks ago, we heard word that the investigating judge decided to dismiss the claims against him that had to do with the murder, the torture, and the kidnapping, what we consider to be crimes against humanity, because it was done on such a widespread basis and done for political reasons, kind of like genocide. But it did decide to maintain half of its case, or part of the case, which is for the corruption and the fraud charges. There's a case in the in the Florida Southern District Court that held that he was responsible for misappropriation of $500 million US. So we're talking a lot of, thank you, we're talking a lot of, the sound man over here, I paid him in advance. We're talking a lot of money that he misappropriated. So clearly the fraud charges are important, but what we're afraid of is under this government, President Martelly has known ties with the Duvalier regime. And if you imagine, once this case, if evidence really goes in, and if witnesses are called, who could be implicated in a prosecution like this that is under the Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, all of them are looking at this case. And so I think he's afraid that his supporters could get implicated in a case like this, and so he's had every incentive in the world to make this case go away, and it looks like he's been successful with that. So the Ministry of Justice has appealed. And they're also in Haitian court in the civil law. Unlike common law, you're allowed to file a civil claim for damages if you're a victim, commensurate with the criminal claim. And so that's what we're using to represent victims. We represent about 10 victims of his regime and are trying to also have appeal rights and pursue this however we can independently. Oh, and by the way, the US government and the Canadian government have been completely silent on the importance of prosecution of this case, despite much urging from us. I talked to you about this, so I'm going to pass on that. Our last project, I would say this also came out of the earthquake by about March, so the earthquake was in January, by about March 2010. The other group of grassroots groups we started hearing from were people that were living in these IDP camps. And they were saying, first of all, we're getting no food, no water, no tarps, no tents. Where's all the temporary housing that was promised? We have no jobs. We are suffering here, and it seems as if we heard that billions of dollars were pledged to us. We've been very patient, we're waiting, and it's not coming. And we also heard, and by the way, we're being evicted from these camps. And do people realize that we're living here because we have nowhere else to go? People after the earthquake moved to whatever available land they could find within about 48 hours of the earthquake. So that meant highway medians, that meant public parks, public squares, next to the airport, any schools, a lot of schools, any available land. And so within several weeks, people who allegedly were private property owners, we don't know that they actually own the land because only 5% of land was actually recorded in Haiti before the earthquake. So, and none of them are using any judicial means. They're not using law or courts in order to claim the land. So they're not providing any proof of title of the land. So we don't know that they have any more claim to the land than the people living on there. And arguably under humanitarian reasons, we would say that the people living there have a lot more claim. And under the Constitution, there's a balancing of property rights versus the rights of the citizens. So we think we have a strong claim for why these evictions are unlawful, particularly if you don't go through court. So we put together a project that is the same Frida Kahlo schematic, has a similar thing. We work with grassroots groups and movements among IDP camps. So we work with IDP camps themselves and movements among IDP camps. At a local level, we do Know Your Rights trainings to let them know what their rights are in trying to defend forced evictions. We also defend human rights defenders in court if they get arrested. We also defend, if their case is brought to court, we defend those. We do all the legal stuff domestically. And then we also brought a petition to the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights because what we were finding was that the UN and the Haitian government was not agreeing that this was unlawful, that thousands of people were being evicted violently, and that it was illegal. So we went to the Inter-American Commission and we asked them to deem it illegal, and they did. And then we went back into Haiti and have been using that in our court cases. We've been using that when police come in the middle of the night with weapons and threaten people off their land. Through our Know Your Rights trainings, camp leaders can then go present copies of the order and try and enforce the rights. And we have been pretty successful. I have to say, when President Martelly took over in May, the first thing within 2 to 3 weeks of his presidency, local mayors started evicting people with violence. One person got beaten to death, and Martelly just sort of turned his head the other way and did not renounce it at all. And so that, unfortunately, it's difficult to fight something when you've got a government that is failing to fight it themselves. So what you can do, these are things that you all can do to stay informed. There's a sign-in sheet going around. We would love to put you on our email list. Something comes out maybe once a month, but if you're wanting to volunteer, you can put that down. You can get stuff from us more often. Our website tries to have everything that we think is really relevant and current about Haiti. You can also volunteer, or you can give us money too. We need money desperately. Nobody wants to fund us because we won't take any US government or any government funding. That's it.